Public Affairs very much thanks Residco, our sole corporate underwriter, for helping to make the production of this show possible.
Today, there are hundreds of vacancies. Nobody is wanting to become a state's attorney. The training is not there. The experience is not there. There is an overwhelming amount of work because they don't have enough people there. So what that means is basic things are not getting done. Women can't get an order of protection because there's no state's attorney available to process the paperwork. Defendants are sitting in custody for years waiting to go to trial because no state's attorney is available to try the case. So what I want to do is I want to create the gold standard for training in a prosecutor's office.
If you're looking at your next Cook County State's Attorney, someone who's going to aggressively prosecute crimes committed with guns. We have to do that. That is the safety aspect of it. But the justice aspect of it, and I've already sat down with our Attorney General, is working with the FBI and the ATF and the Attorney General's office to stop the influx of guns coming into our communities. We're going to hold the people that are perpetrating these crimes accountable. We're going to hold them accountable appropriately. That's safety. But we're going to attack the head of this so that this doesn't continue to influx and come into our community. And that's just.
It doesn't matter whether it's on COVID or not. What matters is it's existing right now and people don't feel safe. So what matters, at least as what I'm running on, is that we need to make sure that people do feel safe, and we need to make sure that we have the policies that make sure that people are safe, but these policies are instituted in a just fashion. So we can do both of these to address crime and how people feel, as well as maintaining this safety and the policies that focus on justice as well. So we can do both.
About how many cases have you tried, or did you try when you were in the state's attorney's office?
Hundreds of cases.
Hundreds of cases?
Hundreds of cases.
Were they jury trials, bench trials?
They were a combination of both.
Okay.
And you have to remember, though, narcotics and special prosecution, so there were a lot of different types of trials.
Were these short trials, long trials?
Well, some were short, some were long.
Felony cases?
Yes.
Hundreds of felony cases?
I don't know. There's hundreds of felony cases.
Dozens? How many? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. So just some combination of misdemeanor trials and felony trials?
Correct.
So we take you today to the state's attorney's race. That's a state's attorney of Cook County Democratic primary. We're taping this on January 28, about 7 weeks from the March 19 Democratic primary date in Cook County. The candidates in the Democratic Party, in the Democratic primary are Clayton Harris III, and he is vying against retired appellate justice, Eileen Burke. And in the Republican side, there is no contest as of now. I don't think there will be in the Republican primary. And Bob Fioretti is running in that race. He will face the winner in the Democratic primary on November 5. So after March 19th, a long time to have that general election dealt with. And we hope to come back with Clayton Harris and with Eileen Burke and with Bob Fioretti. But for today, the rest of our show, we're going to show you the clips of of Clayton Harris and Eileen Burke speaking at the endorsement session of the new Trier Democratic organization, and they gave short remarks of about 5 minutes each, some Q&A and some initial comments. Then you're going to see a short interview I did with Clayton Harris, perhaps about 10 minutes, and we'll come back with you and give some closing comments. And so just listen intently. This is really an important race. Kim Foxx, who's been the state's attorney of Cook County for the last 8 years, is not seeking re-election. I don't have to remind anybody what crime has been like, at least in the last 5 years, some would say last 7 years, going up substantially, especially in Chicago, especially in Cook County. You can see it on the Sunday paper here today on January 28. You can see 2 teenagers were killed in the Loop coming out of their high school, I believe it was, certainly their school in the Loop. And so that's really the issue. There's more to cover as a state's attorney, but I think that's the main issue we want to get at. So come back, we'll keep you apprised. Hopefully we can go to other sessions on site and get these candidates and their interviews.
Welcome to the new Trier primary endorsement session. My name is Dean Marigus, and I have the honor and privilege of being the new Trier Democratic Committeeman. And with me is our President, Patrick Ham. Okay, the first race that we are going to be hearing from is the Cook County State's Attorney's race. And I am going to call Eileen O'Neill Burke to address us. Welcome.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Eileen O'Neill Burke. I am running for Cook County State's Attorney. I have been a state's attorney. I've been a criminal defense attorney. I was a trial court judge, and for the last 7 years, I sat on the appellate court. I stepped down from the appellate court in July of this year for the simple reason that our justice system is not working. But I don't think you need me to tell you that. I think anybody who reads the newspaper could tell you that. I think you could ask any victim, any witness, or even any defendant if they think our justice system is working fine right now, and they will tell you it is not. The state's attorney's office is the backbone of the criminal justice system. When I became a state's attorney in 1991, and I'm dating myself now, there were 2,300 applications for 50 spots. And I can guarantee you that nobody ever went to the state's attorney's office thinking they were going to make money. You went to the state's attorney's office because it was the best place to learn how to be a great trial attorney. Today, there are hundreds of vacancies. Nobody is wanting to become a state's attorney. The training is not there. The experience is not there. There is an overwhelming amount of work because they don't have enough people there. So what that means is basic things are not getting done. Women can't get an order of protection because there's no state's attorney available to process the paperwork. Defendants are sitting in custody for years waiting to go to trial because no state's attorney is available to try the case. So what I want to do is I want to create the gold standard for training in a prosecutor's office. I've already started talking to other retired judges saying, come back with me. Let's create a curriculum for each and every level of the state's attorney's office where we're going to study the Constitution, the case law, and all of the courtroom skills that are necessary for us to be effective at our jobs. We're also going to create a restorative justice bureau where we have nonviolent offenses where we can figure out what is innovative and what is effective in getting people back on track. I believe that we can have meaningful criminal justice reform while keeping people safe. I believe that we can create a prosecutor's office that's professional, effective, and fair. So my name is Eileen O'Neill Burke, and I'm running to be your Cook County State's Attorney. Thank you for your time today. I was running out. I'm ready for questions.
Okay, the first question is, in brief, what did the most recent state's attorney get right, and what did she get wrong?
Kim Foxx has diversified the office, and that was something that is needed. That's something I'm going to focus on and make sure that we reflect the community that we serve. She also put a focus on restorative justice. I want to build on that. Restorative justice is a technique that is used, a multidisciplinary technique where we collaborate on how to get people back on track. How do we get people back to productive citizens? Not only do these programs work, their recidivism rates are significantly less. They're cheaper. It is significantly cheaper to get somebody back on track than it is to incarcerate somebody. So those are the two things.
Okay, the next question, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, these were submitted from you, the body, and we wanted to move forward and ask the questions to the candidates. The second one is, morale in the state's attorney's office is extremely low and record numbers of employees have left in the last 2 years. How would your administration improve the situation?
We're going to improve the situation by focusing on their wellness. We're going to improve the situation by focusing on their training. Because a lot of times they're just handed a pencil and getting thrown into court with no training, no supervision, no structure. So we're going to change that. We are going to make this the best trained prosecutor's office in the entire country. This is going to be the place you want to go, not only to become a trial attorney, but learn how to get people back on track. We're going to work on morale. There's a very real thing called secondary post-traumatic stress, where when you are listening to people in crisis every single day and having to tell that story to juries, it impacts you. It impacts your psyche. It impacts you physically. We're going to make sure that we know how to recognize those signals, how to mitigate against it, and how to prevent it from happening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next candidate is Clayton Harris III. Clayton?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Clayton Harris III, and I am running for Cook County State's Attorney. I appreciate you all being here and taking the time to come out and to engage in this process. It's extremely important. I am running for Cook County State's Attorney. I'm running to be your next Cook County State's Attorney because the urgency of this moment cannot be overlooked. It doesn't matter how or why you think we're where we are right now. People do not feel safe, so we have to address this. My platform is a very simple platform. And thank you, Congresswoman Schakowsky, for your endorsement and teeing this up. My platform is that we can be safe and just at the same time. This is not an either-or proposition. This is an and. We can focus on safety without sacrificing our justice. And this is what we have to do. People want their state's attorney to make sure that they're safe, but we need our state's attorney to make sure it's being done in a just fashion. So I could go through my regular stump speech, but let's just jump right to the heart of it, especially when we talk about safety. And I'll tell you my story as we're dealing with it, but when we talk about what happened downtown 2 days ago, it's not 2 lives that were lost. It's 2 more lives that were lost because of gun violence. So you're looking at, if you're looking at your next Cook County State's Attorney, someone who's going to aggressively prosecute crimes committed with guns. We have to do that. That is the safety aspect of it. But the justice aspect of it, and I've already sat down with our Attorney General, is working with the FBI and the ATF and the Attorney General's office to stop the influx of guns coming into our communities. We're going to hold the people that are perpetrating these crimes accountable. We're going to hold them accountable appropriately. That's safety. But we're going to attack the head of this so that this doesn't continue to influx and come into our community. And that's justice. And that's how we're going to do this. This is extremely personal to me, and I know that this affects everybody. I have 2 little boys. Wow. We have 1 minute. This is personal to me, so let me just get straight to it. It's personal to me. My wife and I have to worry about crime affecting our kids, and everyone has to do that. And that's the safety aspect of it, but we also have to worry about being profiled by the police as well. You're looking at an individual. I'm an aerospace technologist, Middle Tennessee, so I'm a rocket scientist, so if you're worried about things being complex, I got you. Howard Law grad. I was in the State's Attorney's Office, Appeals, Traffic, Narcotics, and Special Prosecutions. I know how to keep us safe. You're looking at a Howard Law grad. I know how to do this with justice. I'm also a professor at the University of Chicago, and I teach policing race in America. We can hold everyone accountable appropriately and make sure that we are safe while being just at the same time. I'm Clayton Harris III. I am excited to be your next Cook County State's Attorney because this is extremely personal, not only to me, but I know it's personal to you all as well. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if I was talking fast. I get passionate about this, but thank you.
Clayton, what did the most recent state's attorney get right and what did she get wrong?
So, excuse me, I'm going to focus on the safety and justice. What I would say that our current state's attorney got right was when we look at the exonerations and what's going on, I remind people that Cook County State's Attorney's Office is the 2nd largest in the country. So you need someone who's ready to manage this office on day 1. And I tell people that this is the office that prosecuted John Wayne Gacy and Hadia Pendleton's murderer. But it's also the office that exonerated over 200 people that never should have been in jail. So that's what the state's attorney absolutely got right as we start on restorative justice. And where I think she could have done better, honestly, is talking about the safety aspect. We have over 747 excellent assistant state's attorneys in the office right now that do the work that makes sure that you all are safe, and they're keeping the people who shouldn't be on our streets locked up or put in jail. So we need to tell that story more. I'm a former Cook County State's Attorney. I'm proud of the work that they are doing. I'm proud of it. And you all need to know that they're on the front lines.
Thank you. On the second question, morale at the State's Attorney's Office is extremely low and record numbers of employees have left in the past 2 years. How would your administration improve the situation?
Sure, thank you. That's a great question too, because morale, even when I was in the office, it fluctuates on what's going on. And it is right, we see all of the things that come to and through. So all the crimes that are committed, we see. One of the things that I'm going to do to make sure that we're addressing this trauma that the assistant state's attorneys, if we're going to put on a mental health expert on staff. We're going to do that. We're not going to wait, and we're not going to wait and see. We're going to put it on because mental health is absolutely necessary. The other thing that we have to remind people is the prestige of the office. When I talked about the John Wayne Gacy and the exonerations, we need to remind people that this is what this office does, that this job is a laudable job. I am so proud to have been an assistant state's attorney in Cook County, and I'm very proud to be going back as the state's attorney for Cook County. And everyone who works in that office should feel that pride as well. And we will bring that in there when we talk about it. We will focus on what's right for people. So when we talk about environmental justice, the people who want to focus on environmental justice, we will bring them into the office and make sure that that's where they stay. The ones who have restorative justice, the ones that want to be in a court room and prosecuting on criminal cases will do that. Civil, so there are a lot of different divisions, and we will focus on that and make sure we're assigning people to the correct place where their passion is, and that will help build morale in the office and rebuild morale in the office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
The state's attorney's race for Cook County. We're taping this on January 28th at the Winnetka Community House, the new Trier Democratic Organization endorsement session. They've just heard from both candidates, Clayton Harris and former Justice Eileen O'Neill Burke. And what we're doing here, we're just going to talk to one of the candidates, Clayton Harris, for a little bit, get to know each other. We've invited Eileen O'Neill Burke. She was unable to make it. We've invited, those are the two candidates in the Democratic primary, Burke and Harris. We've invited the Republican candidate, doesn't have any opposition, Bob Fioretti. He was unable to make it now. We hope to catch up with all of these candidates and do much more before the March 19 Democratic primary, and then, of course, the general election on November 5. So Clayton, you just had a chance to talk with the new Trier Democratic Organization. But the word of the day is crime. If they look at Sunday's paper, today's paper, they're talking about crime. They're talking about 2 teenagers were killed. I guess that's the word. This week in the Loop. I guess coming out of their high school class, okay? So, and in the last 4 years, Wirepoint says crime is up about 60%. Actually, maybe closer to 70%. I could get these numbers wrong. Last 2 years, I guess it's about, I think the last 2 years is actually 70%. Last 4 years, 60%. In any case, and those are major crimes. And as you know, that's been happening for the last 4 or 5 years across a broad range of categories. And we've seen it in the last year as well. So a lot of people would say that's the main issue. We're electing Kim Foxx, who's been the state's attorney for the last 8 years, has chosen not to run for re-election. So now the question is, what do you see as the big issue? And try to make it short, and we'll go back and forth with a few questions, a few answers.
Sure, I appreciate that. I definitely think we need to look at what the numbers are and the data on crime, but that's not as relevant as to how people feel and what they're feeling, and if they feel unsafe, we have to address that. So what I am running on is talking about the platform that we can do more than one thing at a time, that we can be safe and just at the same time, that it's not an either or proposition. So we can focus on safety, but make sure that we're doing it in a just fashion so that people know that we're holding people accountable appropriately and that that feeling of safety rises.
Is there a priority between the two? Because I may have misspoken. Wirepoint says Chicago major crimes are up 60% in the last 4 years, 70% in the last 2 years. I think that's just a phenomenal number. We haven't seen anything like that recently, I don't think. And when I say recently, in the last 7 or 8 years, crime was actually coming down before then.
Well, I know that there was a spike during COVID. So it's whatever the numbers are, people don't feel safe. So we do have to address that.
We're in the post-COVID area. And if you compare 4 years ago, which is pre-COVID, with post-COVID, that number, 60% up. Last 2 years, post-COVID, 70%. So would you agree? We can't really put this surge in crime on COVID, can we?
It doesn't matter whether it's on COVID or not. What matters is it's existing right now and people don't feel safe. So what matters, at least as what I'm running on, is that we need to make sure that people do feel safe, and we need to make sure that we have the policies that make sure that people are safe, but these policies are instituted in a just fashion. So we can do both of these to address crime and how people feel, as well as maintaining the safety and the policies that focus on justice as well.
So
we can do both.
I've heard you say you got to work on the narrative. You're saying the 700, I think we're down to about 750 assistant state's attorneys, something like that. Down from, I think it should be at 1,000, right?
Well, when I was in the office, there were 900.
But now, I think it was higher. Some say we're down 250 to 300 assistant states attorneys.
It's my understanding
That's right.
we're about 750. There's about 750 in the office, and they're budgeted up to 800 or 850.
Okay, and you have said, I heard you say just 20 minutes ago, everybody there is doing a great job, we're doing a great job, we just have to tell a story, it's a good story. Others would say, Chicago Tribune has said, prosecutions are way down under Foxx for violent crime, way down. Do you think that's the case?
And what I said was we have world-class assistant state's attorneys in the office doing a great job. So to your question is?
Do you think prosecutions of violent crime are down under Foxx? The Tribune has said it's down like a third relative to predecessors, depending on what time period you look at, but they're talking large numbers in terms of prosecutions being down. And the word is really what they're saying is that the state's attorney is there to investigate, to look for the right person, the person who committed the crime, if there's probable cause, make the arrest, if they're dangerous, detain pretrial, if they're not, don't, and try them. And if you can show they're guilty, then get a significant sentence if it's a substantial violent crime. The critics of the office say that's not happening. Are the critics right or wrong?
Well, I think that the data shows that 87% of the cases that the police bring to the state's attorney's office move forward in some way, shape, or form, and then 82% of that 87 move on with a court case. So that data suggests to me that prosecutions are going on. But what I can tell you, what I'm going to do as the next state's attorney, Cook County state's attorney, is focus on, again, safety and justice, making sure that we're safe so that we move forward with the cases, especially the violent cases that are making us less safe, but we move forward correctly. So we are going to make sure that the evidence and the investigation is correct and that people are charged appropriately.
Your opponent, do you know much about your opponent, Eileen O'Neill Burke, former appellate justice? Have you spoken with her? Have you engaged with her?
We've been at some of the same events at the same time.
What is your view? How do you differ primarily in this Democratic primary?
I think one of the things that I definitely would focus on is background. I think my background makes me uniquely qualified to be the next Cook County State's Attorney. So as well as the experience within the office, I have experience outside of the office that will help me be an appropriate and the correct manager for the office. So I've led large organizations. I've led state agencies of over 5,000 people, and we've done large projects at the same time. I remind people that Cook County is the second largest prosecutor's office in the nation. And we have to be ready to manage this office correctly. So when you're talking about 750 attorneys, 400 staff, 100 investigators, plus every case that comes in, you need someone that's going to be able to manage that. I also point in my background about working for global companies and doing government affairs. So you also need someone, and these are things that I've done, that can go to DC to bring more resources back to Illinois that will benefit us as we work with law enforcement enforcement, and we have to work with law enforcement to ensure that safety. When we were talking about gun crimes, you mentioned the 2 teenagers. What I'd like to tell people is 2 more teenagers. So we're going to aggressively prosecute people committing crimes with guns, but we also need to work with law enforcement to stop the influx of guns coming into our community and our neighborhoods. So I have this experience, and I think that that also makes me uniquely qualified.
So you're stressing your managerial experience.
As well as my legal background.
You're legal, but you were in the state attorney's office for close to 4 years, I understand. She was there for 10 years. She was a judge in Circuit Court of Cook County and Law Division. She says overseeing trials, appellate justice, writing lots of opinions. I think she said she has substantial trial experience. Do you think that's important if in fact that's the case?
I think that for her qualifications, that's definitely something that she should put up. But I also have the qualifications of trial experience, having gone through the office, going through the very vigorous parts of the office too, definitely criminal appeals and traffic, but I jumped over to narcotics and narcotics special prosecutions. So I understand how the office works and I understand how to keep us safe. But coupled with that now, so there's more things to running the Cook County State's Attorney's Office to ensure that safety and justice are adhered to. And those are the things that also set me apart and that I bring back with me.
About how many cases have you tried or did you try when you were in the State's Attorney's Office?
Hundreds of cases.
Hundreds of cases?
Hundreds of cases.
Are they jury trials, bench trials?
They were a combination of both.
Okay.
And you have to remember though, narcotics and special prosecution, so there were a lot of different types of trials.
Were these short trials, long trials?
Well, some were short, some were long.
Felony cases?
Yes.
Hundreds of felony cases?
I don't know, there's hundreds of felony cases.
Dozens? How many? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. So just some combination of misdemeanor trials and felony trials?
Correct.
Okay. And you've talked about, I've heard you talk about the shoplifting issue. But you know, Foxx has said, even though the law says if it's over $300 for the shoplifting, it can be charged as a felony. She said she's not going to do that. She's going to require over $1,000. And as you know, shoplifting has become a major issue with business in the Loop, outside of the Loop, in a number of parts of Chicago and Cook County. I've read, I haven't spoken with Justice Burke, but she has said she would keep it at felony at $300. And she says, but if it's the first time offender, well then she would send them to theft school. And if they handled that, if they didn't have any repercussions, she doesn't spell this out in detail, well then that could be removed from their record.
Well,
would you go along with that?
That's what's going on right now.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
but it's not a felony now. She would make $300 a felony and you get it removed. Foxx says she just never charges as a felony unless it's over $1,000.
I think that what we have to look at is the crime in and of itself and what's going on. So if there is a breaking, it doesn't matter how much the amount was taken, you can charge it as a felony. So if it's $300, it's $1,000. If it's $2, you can still charge it as a felony.
You can, but is Foxx doing that?
I don't know.
Well, no.
So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do.
Just saying, that's if there's a break-in, you have another crime.
Sure.
But if all you have is shoplifting.
And then you can look at the recidivism, you can look at all the factors around what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold people accountable appropriately. So we will look at the individual, we will look at the crime, and we will charge it appropriately according to what was going on.
So you might charge something that's less than $1,000 as a felony, looking at all the circumstances?
Correct.
We very much want to thank Clayton Harris, who's come here, made himself available for this short interview. We hope he'll come back. And we really appreciate it because we haven't seen Justice Burke. She did not make herself available. We haven't seen Bob Fioretti, the Republican candidate. And we hope to see both of those in the near future. Clayton, thank you so much.
Thank you
very much. I really
appreciate
appreciate you coming here.
Thank you.
And you come back next week and every week to Public Affairs.